What's up, everybody? I have some breaking news. UFC 303 has gotten a complete makeover. Today has been the craziest day in fight announcement history for the UFC. Conor McGregor is injured. The Michael Chandler fight is going to be rescheduled for August or September. We got a brand new main event. It's Alex Pereira versus Jiri Prochazka 2 to headline UFC 303. It's an absolutely dope rematch, and I am super happy the UFC brought something together that wasn't Volkanovski stepping in on short notice. Co-main event, also banging. Diego Lopez versus Brian Ortega in the new co-main event. And last but not least, Jamahal Hill is injured. Out of his fight against Carlos Ulberg, in steps Anthony Lionheart-Smith on short notice. So crazy change. It's a completely different main card now for UFC 303. I would say strong case for it being better. On today's video, I'm going to react to Conor McGregor's supposed injury. And I have a slight conspiracy theory to unveil to you guys that this may be a cover-up for a hearing date that McGregor has set for the end of June, early July. I'm also going to discuss what I think of these new matchups and give my early prediction to each and every one of them. And I'll talk why I think this new card is better than the old UFC 303. So make sure you guys smash the likes if you're new, subscribe it up. First things first, we got to talk this Conor McGregor injury because I think there's a possibility that he actually is injured. He suffered some type of strain to probably his damaged leg, or maybe either his other leg, right? Because if he was putting awkward pressure on one leg because one was damaged, I could see something acting up and flaring. I don't know exactly what it is because the UFC has refused to unveil what is the injury that Conor McGregor has. Now, I've read online that it's supposed mild injury, so I'm assuming nothing more than a strain that's going to keep him out for a month or so. He should probably be able to get back to training by July, maybe even the middle of July at the latest, especially if they're talking about doing an August or September fight for him. But I was thinking more. I know we had that court case, and I dug into some research about this Conor McGregor court case. It's from a case with a woman in 2018. McGregor completely claims innocence. So what's weird is there was a possibility of it being pushed back to November, but some articles that I was reading never confirmed that it was accepted as being pushed back in November. Instead, I read that Conor McGregor was supposed to commence before the hearing July the 2nd. So I'm like, wait a second. Are they covering up Conor McGregor with this court case because they don't want to absolutely defame him? Already getting shafted as a drug addict. Now they're going to bring up a court case with a woman from 2018. I'm just a little sussed out. I see that they said it's supposed to be pushed back until November. But what if the court said no? What if that's why it's taken so much time to get everything put forth and together? Because he's going back and forth, trying hard to make it go back. But the damages claim could potentially be heard out before July 2nd because that was when it was supposed to happen. Now, it's not an absolute that what I'm saying is 100% true. But if there was any fighter that would get a little bit of media cover-up from the Irish media and potentially from the UFC, it would be Conor McGregor. Not that I think they should totally detail every aspect of his injury out, but I just think it's kind of weird that we have literally zero insight onto what is going on with Conor McGregor. Just, it's a mild injury. But like Dana didn't even elaborate slight. Like there was no elaboration. Injured. That's all. We know nothing else. Another weird thing. Is it odd that it lines up for the UFC Sphere card where Conor McGregor could potentially headline versus Michael Chandler with Sean O'Malley in the co-main event versus Merab Dvalishvili in what could be the biggest card of the year and a once-in-a-lifetime MMA event? That's how they're selling the Sphere. So is it a possibility that the UFC pulled some strings, said, oh yeah, McGregor's injured. Oh, we'll give you a few extra weeks or a few extra months to get ready for this fight, and we'll do it in the biggest card of all time? Because Dana White has said the once-in-a-lifetime event at the Sphere is going to be nothing that we've ever seen in combat sports before. Is it a possibility that they delayed the fight intentionally? And maybe Alex Pereira and Prochazka had more notice than we're supposed to believe. But that's weird, though, because Pereira was out in Australia yesterday promoting a potential fight to be signed for UFC 305 in Perth. So maybe I'm reaching a little bit there. It's just coincidental at the very least. I think it's a record-breaking event. If you have Conor McGregor in the main event, Sean O'Malley in the co-main event, that could be the biggest pay-per-view we've had in years. That's a million pay-per-view plus for sure. That's going to sell the hell out because outside of Conor McGregor, for the casuals, Sean O'Malley is definitely the most popular. Just odd. It's just odd. I'm disappointed. I'll tell you I am disappointed because I was so mentally prepared for UFC 303 to be Conor McGregor's return. It's going to take me, a couple days to now accept this new card. Not that I don't love it. Not that I don't think it's better as a hardcore fight fan. But I am just disappointed that, again, the Conor McGregor return is getting pushed back. Are we ever going to see Conor McGregor fight again? I'm going to say yes. Let me know in the comments if you think it's no. I'm sure some of you think he's not coming back. I want to hear from you. I'm going to assume that it's going to be the Sphere for Conor McGregor's return. They're going to put O'Malley in the co-main event and make it the biggest pay-per-view, in person, whatever you think of, UFC event of all time. They're going to try to make it absolutely crazy. Not that they're going to top 300 with the first fight of the night being ranked opponents facing off with one another, but they want to create a spectacle event for UFC Sphere. What is that going to be? I think it's 306 if I'm not mistaken. Very interesting. I might be on point here. Little conspiracy. Let me know what you think of the conspiracy. But the court date conspiracy is an odd one. Potentially Conor McGregor being injured is live, but maybe the injury worked out beautifully. Now, I get it. You say, oh, but why would they want to do fans like that? I get it. But the idea for the Sphere came a little later, right? I don't know. Maybe Conor's just the luckiest man. As far as his injury goes, perfect timeline. He's going to be on an even bigger card with O'Malley. Now, in the past, Conor McGregor doesn't like to share pay-per-view points. Would he make an exception for Sean O'Malley? These are thoughts that are all going through my head. I don't have an absolute answer for you guys. We're just guessing at this point. But it seems like the Sphere with McGregor in the main and O'Malley in the co-main could be one of the biggest pay-per-views of all time. And count me in because I think it would be absolutely sick. Now, enough on Conor McGregor because that fight's not happening. Michael Chandler, you got to wait a little longer, my man. Taking 2 years off, let's turn it into 2.5. Maybe it'll never happen. Maybe Chandler will end up getting injured this time. I'm not trying to jinx it. I'll knock on wood. But Chandler gets injured, fights off. Charles Oliveira steps in. Michael Chandler never gets the Conor McGregor fight. I really hope that's not the case, but it could potentially happen with how much time, has been delayed between these two. But okay, I want to talk about the new main event because it deserves some praise. Prochazka is a badass. Pereira is a badass. This rematch is absolutely amazing. But I do hate that it's on short notice. I particularly hate short notice championship fights. I don't like when both fighters now don't get a camp. Now, of course, it would be shit to be one fighter not getting a camp and another gets a full camp. But I guess that short notice replacement at least is somewhat of a choice for the guy jumping in. The UFC said, listen, take the fight. If there's any guys in the game that I know train all year long, it's these two. They do stay in shape. Now, it's still not the same as having an 8-week camp for a fight, but both guys consistently spar, both guys consistently in the gym, both guys put a lot on the line for this fight game. It's their whole lives. They're not just fighters that come when you have a date. They train and fight in the gym every damn day. I'll tell you this. With Pereira winning the last one, I have a good feeling he wins this one too. Now, obviously, Prochazka, if you didn't know, is the guy that Pereira took the light heavyweight belt from. Even though Prochazka had an impressive win over Alexander Rakic, he was getting outstruck a little bit from the outside before the big shots started landing. I am not confident that Prochazka is going to be able to avoid the knockout from Pereira. I think Pereira will be chopping at the legs, and I think he's going to land a clean shot. I want to also say something else. I'm putting this claim out there. I think Alex Pereira has gotten better. I think Alex Pereira has adjusted to being a light heavyweight, and this is the best version of Pereira we ever saw. Against Jamahal Hill, he looked like a god. I think against Prochazka, he's going to look fantastic again. And I think he's going to knock him out. I think Pereira is just simply too technical and too powerful for Jiri Prochazka. A lot of guys, right, they have power or they have technicality. Prochazka can walk him down and then hit him with big shots in a war. Whereas Pereira has the technique that's superior to Prochazka, and he has power that's superior to Prochazka too. Now, of course, could Prochazka land a looping shot over the top? Absolutely. He's a dynamite hitter, but probably not. I think Pereira knocks him out again, puts a stamp on this win. And I'll tell you, when I looked at the odds, I was a little bit surprised. Alex Pereira is like a minus 150 favorite. He's around that range right now. I predicted on my live stream earlier he was going to be at least a 2-1 favorite. I expect that line to get wider. As much as there's going to be love on the Prochazka underdog side, I think a lot of people have the same mentality as me. And it's that right now, Jiri Prochazka, as good as he is, doesn't have enough to beat the maestro in Alex Pereira. I love the fight. Official prediction, I'm going right now, Pereira by knockout a second time. He's going to beat Prochazka. And I'll say this. This is a bigger fight as far as what the levels of MMA are. These are the two best in the light heavyweight division. Conor McGregor is a non-champion, and Michael Chandler is maybe not even a top 5, to be honest. He's good, though. He's real good. But it was also a welterweight fight. This is a bigger fight as far as the hardcores go to find out who's the baddest man on the planet type of thing. But the McGregor fight did have a special spectacle to it. But Alex Pereira is a star, man. The 300 main event, fighting Jamahal Hill, knocking him out brutally, and now coming and fighting at 303. Alex Pereira has had the year of a lifetime, my God. And I think he's winning by knockout here. Now, as far as the other two fights, we got to talk about them. So we got Diego Lopes versus Brian Ortega, which is absolutely sick. It's a badass fight. Now, Ortega is riding high after a big win over Yair Rodriguez, where he looked really good and seemed to find his footing in the game once again. Diego Lopes, quick win over Sadiq Yusuff. And honestly, he has emerged as an up-and-coming star for the UFC. And I think the implications with this fight are huge. The winner, either of them, could be right in line for the title. But I'll tell you this, the UFC is very interested in the Diego Lopes superstar train because the dude can build the hell out of the Spanish market like no one else. And with the win, he is right in line for a potential title fight. Now, of course, Volkanovski and Max Holloway are both waiting in the wings for that Ilia Topuria fight. But at the absolute worst, after a win here, Diego Lopes would be one fight away from a title fight. But if there's any injuries or any delays in matchups for either, Holloway versus Topuria or Volkanovski versus Topuria, easily Diego Lopes could step in and it would still be a massive fight. Because after this fight with a win, and I'm going to predict Diego Lopes does win, I will assume that he is on the short list of guys to get the call for the belt. And I really do think he pulls through. My early prediction here is Diego Lopes pulling it off, the biggest win of his life. I just think he's a special talent. He has hands and he has nasty jiu-jitsu. I actually think that Diego Lopes could rock Brian Ortega on the feet and then match his grappling. A lot of guys, either they're better in the striking than Brian Ortega, or really nobody's better in the pure jiu-jitsu, or they're better maybe at the wrestling, right? But a lot of times, takedown defense and quality striking. Diego Lopes will be very confident on the ground with Brian Ortega, and he has more power than Brian Ortega too. I think we could see Diego Lopes dropping Ortega and hurting him. I don't know about knocking him out. I'm unsure method of victory. I want to go out and pick finish and just ride the high of the fights being announced and just be like, yeah, he's going to sleep him, or yeah, he's going to strangle him. But the logic that sets in here is I think these guys could have a good 3-round fight. And Diego Lopes is really tested here, but pulls through against Brian Ortega. And what's going to be the signature win for him? Now, that's not all. Anthony Smith versus Carlos Ulberg. Now on paper, this is a damn squash match. My brain auto picks against Anthony Smith at this point. Like, I do have a feeling that he's teetered down a level. After this past weekend, I thought Dominic Reyes and Anthony Smith was a lock for the next fight, but the game doesn't work how you'd expect, okay? I do think Ulberg can outpoint Anthony Smith on his way to a counter shot knockout. Now, I think Ulberg has a massive chance to catch the eyes of the fans, especially being on the undercard. Really, it's the feature bout of the night, so he's in a great spot, of Alex Pereira and Prochazka, which is for the belt in the main event. So we definitely can get people talking about a potential Carlos Ulberg title fight. I will stand on this. His win over Jamahal Hill would have been so much bigger. And the fact that he would have fought on the Conor McGregor undercard, he could have been a perennial star at light heavyweight. So I do think he loses that chance. Now, still the biggest fight of his life. Anthony Smith is the biggest fight of Carlos Ulberg's life. And he's in a must-win spot. And I do think at this point, he can catch an Anthony Smith and knock him out. I'm seeing like a second-round KO. A patient Ulberg picks apart Smith from the outside, doesn't shoot for no stupid takedown and leave his neck out, finds the knockout shot. I think Ulberg is going to be light years ahead of Anthony Smith as far as the kickboxing technique goes, and I think he's going to have a pretty successful night. I think he's getting an emphatic KO. I think he's getting fans talking, and I do think that he's going to have a claim to a #1 contender fight. But if he would have fought Jamahal Hill on the Conor McGregor undercard, holy hell, I think then he would have had a claim to fight Alex Pereira next. Unfortunately, beating Anthony Smith ain't earning no title shot. Not to me. Not to me. I don't think it earns you a title shot. I don't know. If you guys disagree, let me know in the comments if you disagree. I think most of you are going to have the same mentality as myself. It doesn't earn you a title shot, but damn it earns you respect. And damn it earns you a top contender fight. Now, looking at the card, UFC 303 previously versus currently, what is better? Now, it's simply better now. As far as the depth to it, it's better. Thank God. Bueno Silva versus Chiasson isn't the featured bout of the night, because when that was set as the featured bout, I almost wanted to vomit. I was ready to puke in my glass over here. I was like, are you kidding me? That was horrible. Now we have a sick featured bout. I think Ulberg and Smith is badass. And we still got Ian Gary on the card versus MVP as far as we know. Unless that fight gets canceled, because Ian Gary's like, no, I'm only fighting under Conor McGregor. That's the only way. I don't think he'll do it, though. I don't think he'll do that. But you never know with him. I think that the truth is now the card has bigger fights as far as the best fighters in the world go. Because you have an absolutely sick co-main event, Diego Lopes and Ortega, with high stakes. Right? Yeah, you lose the Jamahal Hill fight versus Ulberg, but you have two surging guys at featherweight against one another. That's just bigger. Ulberg is still fighting Smith, and what's a good fight, but the main event is a title fight now, as opposed to a Conor McGregor fight. Conor McGregor fight is hype. But the reality is Conor McGregor is not the best welterweight in the world. He's not the best lightweight in the world. He's not the best fighter in the world. Alex Pereira, with a win here, he's putting himself into that pound-for-pound conversation. It's insane to me how the UFC saves the day every time. When we all have doubts, like I was worried. I was really worried. I was like, no. I was like, no way. Are they going to do it? Are they going to do Volkanovski versus Chandler? I was terrified. Are they going to do Volkanovski versus Oliveira? I was like, come on. I didn't want to see Volk step in on short notice. I know that he was seemingly willing, but that should not happen, especially after the back-to-back knockout losses. He needs his time off, and I'm thankful that the UFC went a different direction. I had a feeling Pereira and Prochazka was a real possibility, but I just didn't know for sure if it would happen. But I said on the live stream, Pereira-Prochazka is probably the fight, because two badasses that will jump in and take it as far as championship matchups go, and you needed a title fight probably to sell this main event. Makes sense, it's these two. I feel like this card is improved by a couple points. I mean, it was, I don't know, a 7.5, 8 out of 10 card. But with Chiasson and Bueno Silva in the featured bout, it was painful to look at. But now I'm looking at this card and I'm like, damn, UFC 303 somehow got better. Somehow Conor McGregor not fighting got a better card overall. Because they realized you can't just sell with Pereira, I guess, and Prochazka in the main, then, you know, a shittier card all the way through. You had to add in a savage matchup. And Diego Lopez is a savage matchup versus Brian Ortega, which, like I said, I think it's got high implications for a potential title fight. This is good shit. You know what? I'm digesting it more as we talk about it. I'm accepting it more as we talk about it. I think I'm grateful now that it happened. And we'll see Conor McGregor later this year. I think in the long run, we'll be happier with 303 as a legit card of the baddest fighters on the planet, as opposed to the McGregor show. Who knows where McGregor's at mentally? Who knows where his skill set's at? Who knows if the conspiracy is true or not? I hope that I end up being right and that conspiracy is actually the reality, that he's going to court, and that's why he's not fighting. He maybe isn't injured. I want to know. We'll see. Let's see. Maybe tomorrow Dana White will drop some info on McGregor's injury, or maybe he'll drop some info. Maybe in the next coming weeks we'll get an actual announcement of when this fight is rescheduled for. But as of right now, tentative scheduling, August, September is what I've heard. We'll see if that comes to light. Either way, UFC 303 will commence, and I promise you guys it's going to end up being a banger card. So respect to the UFC for coming through. The matchmaking team, they pulled the strings. You know Hunter Campbell was making calls. Listen, you can take his fan base. You can take his fan base. You can blow up. Pereira Prochazka was the right fight. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the reaction video. Massive day of MMA news. You got me doing 2 news reactions and a live stream, so I'm feeling pretty badass about it. Thank you guys for tuning in. Smash the likes on your way out. If you're new, subscribe. And definitely let me know what you thought in the comments of the matchups. Drop some early predictions. If you got nothing to say in the comments, but you just enjoy the content, as always, drop a W in the chat to boost the algorithm for your boy. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.